Two back-to-back lives. Have a little time today before I have to peel out. So we might be on here for about an hour, but I have something that I want to talk about today. I retired my assistant today. I don't have my second phone on me, but it's okay. I think I have enough in my mind to freestyle. And we're going to talk a little bit more in a general sense. We're going to talk about what is the most important watch in your collection. We're going to talk about appreciating what we have. We have a lot of state of collections that we have seen coming out towards the end of the year. A lot of people do state of the collection. That's a normal thing in the watch world. And it's a good time for us just to reflect on what we have and appreciate what is already in our collection, because it's very easy to get caught up on the next watch, as we know. And especially if we're seeing state of collections and we're seeing a watch that somebody else has that we may want, right? We may be tempted because the year is rounding out, but give it some time and reflect on what we have is what we're going to talk about here. So welcome in, everybody. I appreciate you guys for spending your most valuable time with me today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's kick things off with a wristwatch check. Now, the most important watch in my collection is what I'm wearing. And Wifey says, good morning all. Good morning, Wifey. I think it's just me and you, a couple of people popping in. I'm wearing my most important watch in my collection, okay? And I've shown you guys this Venezianico, but this is not the most important watch in my collection. Some viewers, and I got this idea, James, I forget the name of, it eludes me the name of his channel. You guys know the guy though. I know my name is James. You're watching me. That channel, right? And Trap was on there, and a couple of creators were asked the question of what important watch is in your collection and why. And some people couldn't answer that. Jody, actually, I think he was the first person to come up on there, which is tying into yesterday's Erebus unboxing that I did. And he couldn't answer that question. Why? Because he had several watches in his collection that were very important to him. And they were equally as meaningful to him. And I respect that. Sometimes it's not easy to define what is your most valuable watch in your collection and why. So if you guys have a similar situation, let me know. I understand that. But if you do have a watch in your collection that is a standalone, let me know that as well. I in particularly have a watch in my collection that is separate from all the other watches that I have. On my wrist today, I have the Venezianico Nerede a Oreo. And I've shown this watch a lot, I understand, but that watch is super important to me. It defines all the hard work that I've done here on YouTube. It built and established a relationship that I'm really appreciative of, and all the other relationships. And more importantly, the relationships that I build with you guys is first and foremost the most important kind for me, and that what makes everything interesting. And without you guys, there'd be no channel. So I appreciate everybody who is following along. Thelonious, what's going on, my brother? Thank you for spending some time with me. Pack, what's going on? Good morning. The most important, okay, so before I get into that, yesterday there was some comments about Red Bull, and today there's no Red Bull, and you're gonna see the same energy for me. We only have agua that we're going to consume today. We're gonna keep things nice and steady with the energy to make sure you guys can compare and contrast my energy from last live. So that's that, and you know, it is what it is. Now, the most important watch in my collection. Now, sit down. If you're standing up, sit down and stay with me. The most important watch in my collection is actually a fashion brand. What did he just say? Yes, it is the most important watch in my collection. It's my Michael Kors. I believe the model number is MK1555. Okay, and I'm going to give you guys the reason why, and this is also the reason why in my channel I say all watches are collected, right? Because this is the most important watch for me. And the biggest controversy is fashion brand watches. So for me to say that a Michael Kors is my most prized possession in my collection probably needs a little bit of explanation for most. But for me, all watches are accepted, whether you have fashion brands, whether you have, it doesn't matter, okay? Somebody who's interested in timepieces is interested in timepieces. They deserve a seat at the table. We can break bread. And I welcome somebody having such a different feel and aspect to watch collecting, because now I can have a conversation with somebody where they could probably teach me something, right? So this is the Michael Kors in my right side up here. this is the Michael Kors in my collection, MK155. Now, this watch was given to me by my girlfriend 18 years ago. And it was in my collection before I even had a collection, okay? So before I even collected watches like that, this was gifted to me. I believe it was on my birthday by my girlfriend. 18 years later, she's my wife. And that is the reason why this is my most prized possession. And the funny thing about it is this sat in a box. I did wear it a couple occasions, but I wasn't really a watch guy. I wasn't used to having something on my wrist. If you guys know my story, it was an Apple Watch that got me used to having something on the wrist. I wasn't a jewelry kind of guy. I didn't have chains ever. I didn't have watches. I didn't have rings. So I had to get used to kind of all those things, at least the ring, right? The marriage ring. And then, of course, watches came into the picture. So this, if there were, God forbid, a fire in my place, and for whatever reason, I could only save one watch, I promise you guys, this would be the only watch that I would salvage. When the movement is no longer good, because I'm a modifier, I may try to tinkle with it and try to make it into an automatic. Maybe I just put another quartz movement in here. It is a quartz movement. And as you guys can see, it's got diamonds along the way. It's kind of like a diver style, also a chrono and everything else. Chocolate kind of color to it. I actually ended up changing the band on this because it came with a metal band that was also chocolate that matched the rest of it. But I couldn't size it the way I wanted to. And then I realized in watch collecting early on that you could change out the band, and that's what I did to make it fit. And I love this watch. It is when my wife pulled it out of storage, right? And I was already collecting other watches. Guys, when she pulled this watch out, it was like she found a Rolex. I was head over heels. I completely forgot about it. I was over the moon excited. It still works perfectly. Whatever possessed me to keep it in the box, I don't know, because I'm not the neatest person in the world. So I'm really happy that I did that, and it still works, and it's in phenomenal condition. And I love the watch altogether. So I'm curious to see what your guys' prized possession is on your collection. Why? I don't have any watches in my collections that were passed down to me. I do have a watch that I stole from my father to wear on my wedding. And that is special to me as well. It also is a quartz movement. It also is kind of like a fashion brand. I forget the name of it. It's one of those things where I just threw something on the wrist because I'm like, I'm getting married. Usually people wear watches, so let me wear one. Let me catch up on this chat. Good morning, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in. Y'all are saying hi. Holler from your fellow in the Watch Crunch. Dean, what's going on, brother? What's going on? Yes, from Watch Crunch. I remember. What's going on? I appreciate you for coming in, man. Welcome in. Same here. I had a Fitbit and now I can't. Yeah, so the Apple Watch in the watch collecting world, as much slack as it gets, it is and has been a gateway. Unlike, let's say, and I want to say that is more of a transitional watch for current times, because a lot of people have the Apple Watch. That's the most purchased watch out there at this point. So when we talk about quartz, I mean, even these quartz movements are beat out by Apple, right? But what it does, Fitbits, Garmin's, Apple Watches, whatever the case may be, they kind of get replaced, if you will, once somebody gets into watch collecting and you go down that rabbit hole of appreciating timepieces that have mechanical movements. You start getting it, because that's the crazy thing about watch collecting, yeah? The movements that are mechanical are technically dated, right? And it's the only thing that has given so much appreciation for an outdated technology, if you will. And I think that's part of the special connection that we have to watches, the special thing that we want to keep going and keep appreciating. We all know about the quartz crisis and how that could have gone away with all of the mechanical movement, it being incredibly accurate. I mean, if you put them up against each other, the cheapest quartz is probably more accurate than the most expensive mechanical watch, right? Yet it was salvaged by treating mechanical watches as a luxury. Of course, we have the craftsmanship inside of it. Those watches that are a higher caliber are handmade. There's more into the appreciation of the watches in that kind of caliber. So we all know how that was salvaged and how that is kept alive. My prized possession is an Imperial Armada, previously owned by my dad before he passed. God rest his soul, brother, in 2005. Just replaced the battery and strap. I'll update the state of the collection on the Crunch. Beautiful, Dean. Absolutely. And tag me into that post when you do that. I would love to see what that watch looks like. That is a very special watch for you, and obviously from you sharing, and thank you so much for sharing that, brother, man. He's looking down and he's smiling, and I'm pretty sure he's in a better place, and that's a really special thing, man, and I can see why it is so near and dear to you. I think watches that are passed down have an obvious connection as to why they wouldn't want to be replaced. Again, I don't have one that was passed down, but I have this very special watch that's 18 years old at this point, and really, really love it, really, really connected to it. My prized possession is a Khaki King. Nice. I had it with me on my first day. Awesome. Watch Enclave. That is pretty awesome, man. When you first got out there and you had the nerves and you started dating and everything else, it brings you back to that youth. It brings you back to that childhood. And that's how it is with me and my wife, right? Like, because we were together since we were children, basically. I mean, I met her at 13. We started going steady at 17, 18 years old. I'm now 35. So in the residence of the Santanas, we are always kids with each other. We have that special connection because we were so young when we started, and that has never changed for us. That's why this is so special. It just brings me back to those moments. But honestly, just seeing her beautiful face does that. I appreciate you, man. Have a blessed Sunday. And yes, sir, have a good day, brother. Wife, 18 years, and watch is a testament to your love. Absolutely, man. Have a great day. Dean, thank you so much for popping in. I do appreciate it. Hey, I'm 35 years old. Thelonious, man. See what I'm saying, bro? I guess the wise now, 35. I'm curious, Thelonious, what was your first watch? What is your most can you take a watch in your collection, say, and I know you probably have knowing how much you already know, you probably have a really nice collection. I'm curious, man. Please get on Watch Crunch and please do some wrist shots because I'm curious what's in your collection, brother. And let me know. So I'm polishing off the review video for this watch, for the Veneziano Nere de Audio, right? And we are going to talk about the luxury feel for us. We're all going to talk about appreciating the collection that we already have because we have all of those state of collections coming out. I think that's important, man. We're rounding off the year now. We only have a couple of weeks to say la vie for 24. And I think it's a good time for us to have a serious discussion about appreciating the watches in our collection, really reflecting on what we have, appreciating the fact that we can even afford a watch, right, guys? Because if we talk about luxury, right, for me, this is the way I ground it. This is the way I define it. A luxury anything is anything outside of your four walls, anything outside of the food, anything outside of the home that you need to pay for. I mean, we're blessed if we have money outside of that to even buy a cup of coffee, right? So to purchase watches of a caliber of $100 plus, $1,000, whatever that range is, realize this, that there is somebody out there somewhere that can't afford a $20 watch. They're just making ends meet. It's right on the money, no pun intended. And a $20 watch is something that is outside of their range, right? So for us to purchase anything in our collection, and I know it's so easy, believe you me, I'm in this world and I'm in this whole ordeal of collecting, so it's very easy to say what the next watch is or what you don't have or what you want to add to your arsenal. And everybody has mentioned that watch collecting is a marathon, not a race. So that's very true to be in that statement. And I want to take it even further to say that to begin to have that groundwork of appreciation for what we have should start with that idea of everything outside of your bills and everything else. Now, luxury also should give you a certain kind of feel, right? And it also is the extra spending like I talked about. So it really is flexible in that kind of sense. It doesn't have to necessarily be the big dogs of the name brands, whether it be clothes, cars, watches, and all the sorts. But the point is this. We should come to a point at this time, especially towards the end of the year, where we should just take a look at our collection and humble yourself to say that somewhere out there, there's somebody that can't afford a $20 watch, and that's real talk. So if you're going to Starbucks, if you're buying a cup of coffee, if you're doing anything outside of your need to survive, That for me is luxury. So when you take that base and you apply it to a watch like this, or even the Islander that I purchased and it wasn't gifted to me for a review, I'm super grateful, man. I'm super happy. I don't envy anybody. I live vicariously sometimes through you guys. That's another tool that I use. You know, we're up on these platforms where we can see each other's collections, we can interact with each other. Hopefully, maybe you can build a relationship, maybe you can borrow some watches, whatever the case may be, to kind of fulfill that need and everything else. And I've always often talked about doing other things with your watches outside of just the next purchase, right? Modifies or photography or anything of the sorts, going to watch meetups, right? Talking about watches sometimes helps calms those demons, if you will. Okay, where was I? 35 next week. Oh man, you older than me, bro. That's it. That's it. You take the cake. My most prized possession. My most prized watch is a probe, an old Nixon 51 30-year chrono, which was the first watch I bought with my money back in high school. Fire, bro. See, that's really cool. That's really awesome. And I was still in high school when I acquired this, so I can relate as far as that goes. And that brings you back, and that's your most prized possession in your collection. And I respect that because I know you have some pretty watches and you have some upscale watches in your collection. So for that to be something of importance to you, for that being your most prized watch, as you stated, that's pretty cool, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing that, Thelonious. That's awesome. Wifey says happy birthday to Thelonious. Hello. Welcome in. Spitfire question. If you could do the most radical mod to that 18-year-old watch, what would you do? I would say at this point, the answer to the most radical modification. Now, first and foremost, I'm not going to touch it at all until it actually needs something to improve it or fix it. Let's say that. So I wouldn't mod this watch at all. I want it to be original for as long as it can be. Hopefully it outlives me, you know, knock on wood. But if it doesn't, it would be the movement. It would be the movement. And the most radical thing I could do is, if I was to figure out, and it is possible, I think, if I could figure out a way to modify a Sellita movement in it, I think that would be insanity. So that would be the only thing that I touch. Now, that being said, I would most likely have to change the crown, because realize that obviously the stem for the keyless works doesn't transfer over. Maybe or maybe not the crown that's already on it. No, matter of fact, hopefully the crown would fit on top of that, because then this is just a push-pull crown. So if not, if I couldn't go that route, but I would have to change the hands as well. So that would be the most radical thing. I would definitely attempt to do that myself. If not, then I would find the highest quartz chrono, or I would find the original one, or maybe find a loaner watch, right? I could find the same exact watch, purchase that, and put the movement inside of this one. That is possible as well. That's the easiest transition for you to know that everything is going to coincide. You don't have to change the stem or the crown. You're just releasing that at that point. But the most radical thing, that's a very good question. Thank you so much. The most radical thing that I could imagine myself doing is putting a Swiss movement inside of this Michael Kors. That would be insanity and be something to talk about. But I'm going to wait until it's time for service for that, if that makes any sense. And yeah, no watches were passed down to me, but now I can pass down watches, and that's pretty cool considering I would be the first. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm on the same wavelength. I have now a larger collection. I talked about it yesterday where I have to trim that down. I am excited to be able to pass things down with everything, hopefully, God willing. And, that's something for me to start that, right? That's something for us to talk about. If you're in a position where you didn't have something passed down to you, you can now at least be the one who passes down watches. And I'm also consciously thinking of that as well. And this would be pretty sweet to pass down and give that story to my kids in the future. It's an honor to know Skylar and you, Sharifa. Additionally, fact that my dad's watch, my fiance has been wearing to wear to work, and I'm happy with it suits her. That's awesome. That's awesome. And my dad's watch. Yeah, that's special, Dean. Absolutely. That the wifey is risking that. Now I'm glad you said that, man, because she already proclaimed that Erebus, just so you guys know. She hit me with that nice watch. And this is the second time this year. The first one was an Addy's dive. You guys don't know, but I purchased the most affordable Addy's dive that's out there. It has the NH quartz movement that has a smoother sweep. Um, it was a smaller size. I think it was a 36. And I unpackaged it, and she goes over my shoulder. She's like, "What you got there, Skip?" And I go, "Yeah, no, I got a watch here that I purchased to do a review. I wanted to see what the hype was about Addy's dive, and it's a pretty affordable." She's like, "Yeah, that's nice. Let me see that." Gone. The Erebus, same deal. I was sizing it to my wrist. She said, "What wrist size are you?" You know how people come up to you and say, "What shoe size are you?" You're in a little bit of trouble if somebody comes up to you and asks you that question. I'm a little bit of in trouble if my wife asks me, "Well, what wrist size are you? What are we doing here with that?" And I'll let you guys know right now, before I even do the deep dive into the Erebus Aventurine that we did a live for yesterday. Taking out, it's a screwed in links, butter. Smooth jazz CD 101.5. I mean, taking out the screws from that and just putting them back in, super smooth, super butter, well manufactured, well machined. You can tell that it is of quality already, because usually, as I always state to you guys, where people cheap out on companies is on the bracelet. From the bracelet to the watch itself to the dial and everything else. Now, let me be fair. I have an Aventurine already. The Erebus is a smaller size, as you guys know, so it will fit her wrist. She has a 6.5-inch wrist. So, yeah, that's gone already. I said, "Can I borrow it for the review?" I love these stories, everyone. Thank you, wifey. Mine is my Movado Museum. Yes, I love that watch, bro. Movado Museum. I often talk about it. I'm so sorry if this is feeling like a rerun at this point, but the Movado Museum has a special connection to me. I do have the Bold, and it's a special connection because when I was younger, I used to pass by Brooklyn 86th Street because I went to Fort Hamilton, so I was there every day, and there was a jewelry store, and they had the Movado Bold on the window. You guys know back in the day, like that was like the watch, right? That was super popular. Not so much talked about now, unfortunately. I think that they could have done different pivots to really catch on with the times of enthusiasts, molding more into, automatic movements and value and stuff like that. But that could be said about a lot of companies. The point is, Movado Bold, the Movado Museum, was like a Rolex to me when I was younger. So I had to grab that watch as I became a collector, and as I got older, I did get that watch for, I think it was a Christmas present. So yeah, that's awesome that the museum watch was something of value, Oscar, in your collection. Your wife gave that to you, and it was your first Movado, so it's absolutely special in that accord. And I'm guessing that that's the watch that you would never part with, and you would have to save given a bad ordeal where you had to rush in and rush out of the house. Let's say that. Thanks for answering, brother. Of course, radical mod ideas indeed. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Dean. Yeah, that's where I would go with that. Which, by the way, she was robbed in her country 3 times at gunpoint. Oh, man. To take her watch, so to me, was worth much more than just a gift. Oh, man. I'm sorry to hear that, Oscar. I really hope, obviously she's okay. Guys, that's a subject. I appreciate you sharing that, bro. That's some serious talk. And I'll tell you guys what, man. You guys are all watch collectors. If somebody was to run up on you, just give them the watch, man. It's not even worth it. At the end of the day, it would break my heart to give up any watch, especially this one. But I'll tell you what, man, we live in a crazy world right now, and you have to be careful. You have to be mindful. That is something that I've thought about with my vintage Anago being gold plated. It looks very attractive. It looks very luxurious. It looks expensive. And in many ways it is. But I tell you what, man, I as much as I like to have my ego and think that I'm a tough guy, if somebody was to say, "Hey, I'm gonna need that watch," I'm gonna just give it to them. It's not worth my life. I have to be around here for the people that love me, rely on me, and I try not to get emotional. But that's a real conversation, Oscar. Thank you much for sharing. I think it brought up a topic that I wasn't even thinking about, but it is important for me to state. It's a crazy time. Be careful first and foremost, especially if you're traveling. If you're traveling, man, take an F91W. Everybody knows that watch. Everybody pretty much has put that watch in their collection for years now. No one's going to run up on you for that, I don't think. And if they do, then it's a $20 loss at best. VK31 was the movement, Thelonious, that I was talking about, the Addy's dive. Thank you very much. I was also purchasing that watch to get into the inner facts of it, where I could think about doing modifications for my NH movements to swap out for those people that want modifications but don't want the hassle of mechanical. I've come against that a multitude of times where, listen, I build watches for the people that I love and they're custom made, but they're not accustomed to mechanical watches. And if I was to transfer, but you know, the spacers in there, there's more to it. And I think you need kind of like a 3D molding for the movement holder, if you will. If anybody out there knows how to transfer a VK31 to an NH35, let me know. Give me some information on that. I've bought a couple of spacers for that, but I haven't really played with it. And since my wife liked the Addy's dive, I'm crap out of luck, if you will. Fun fact, I did not claim it. I just liked it. She claimed it. She claimed it. Don't listen to her, guys. It's a lie. LOL, my fiance started to borrowing my Casios. Yeah, man, that happens. Borrow, right? Because if they fall in love with it, they fall in love with it, man. You might have to go on Amazon and do that little replacement type of thing, you know? You're welcome, Sharifa. I see. Wait, hold on. Let me put. Oh, did I mess this up? All right, cool. Hold on. Oscar, that's crazy. With respect, things are replaceable. People are not. Exactly, Thelonious. Going back to what I was saying about if somebody wants your watch, man, just give it up nice and easy. Say, here you go. Enjoy. Have a nice day. You need it more than I do. Yes, God forbid, but just let it go. And sorry about for your wife, Oscar. Yeah, man, I'm so sorry, man. And if I had that conversation with my wife, man, and it's like she turned to me, she's like, listen, man, if you ever put in the business, I said, I wish somebody would. She said, calm down, my guy. You're not made of steel. Like, just give it up. Just give it up. I said, you know what? You're right, man. I got to be here, you know? I got to be here for you and everything else. So all that ego and stuff and all that tough guy stuff goes out the window once you're married, man. You really got to show up. Even before that, right? Even before that, obviously. But you start thinking differently when you get married and you get a little older. Borrow it. It is another Spitfire. I'm thinking to get hold of an old Seiko. Thoughts? So crazy that you say that, Dean, because I actually was thinking about doing the same. I often talk about the SKX 007, and I did get a Noctua watch that gave me that kind of feel with the inspiration. We talked about that yesterday. But even still, I was thinking about searching for a non-runner on eBay, Dean. I honestly, now, I don't know if you're looking to do a fixer-upper, but you could still look for stuff on eBay and see if somebody has a deal for that. I, in particular, know that I could swap out the movement. So if somebody's selling that for super cheap, and I haven't even looked, like most likely people know that watch and know that it is of some value. So even if it's a non-runner, they probably know that people can easily fix that up. But I was thinking about like getting a very early on SKX 07 that is weathered and has that vintage look, and the loom gets a little like darker, and it has the wear and tear, and just to have that really look, that's probably like a future project for me. Giving you a tip on that, I'll say this: my brother, believe it or not, like he started to get into watches a little bit. I guess I'm infectious, and he's not really necessarily a watch guy like I am, but he actually looked into some vintage Orient watches, and he has some really nice vintage Orient watches. So I would try to look for both. Go for Seiko, look at Orient. Citizen is another name, but I would say eBay. And if you are willing to mess around with watches, I would say get a fixer-upper. Get a fixer-upper like the SKX 007. I mean, there's so many different models out there for Seiko, but the nice thing about it, if you're staying on Seiko and you're staying on Orient and you're staying on Citizen, is that the NH movements are plentiful, the Miyota movements are plentiful, the Orient, did I just say that? The Miyota movements, or all of those movements to the watches that I just suggested are out there. So I would go ahead and do that, and you'd probably get a super deal on a non-runner, as they'll call it. Maybe they don't even know that they have to wind it. Maybe they inherited it, right? That happens a lot too. I heard a crazy story where somebody had, I don't know if it was a minute repeater or an hour repeater, but they were doing a transaction, they were doing a deal, and the person was letting it go for a crazy low price. They didn't know how a mechanical watch runs. The person purchasing it obviously winded up to make sure that it was working. And then it did an hour chime because the person purchasing it knew that it was an hour repeater or a minute repeater. And the person gave the other person, the person selling it, gave the person buying it a funny look when it made the chime. And that was probably thousands of dollars that watch cost, and they probably bought it from sub $1,000, $500. So in that person's aspect, they were like, wow, I'm getting $500 for an old watch. And the person buying it's like, this is a minute or hour repeater, so this is worth thousands of dollars. So I would say search the web, search eBay, see if you can find your deal. I mean, obviously you have to see what is authentic and what isn't. You know, I don't have a tremendous experience. If you want security, build a relationship with the vintage seller. And Seiko has to be out there for everybody selling vintage watches, I think. And then that way you don't have to worry about it being authentic. You don't have to worry about it being a Frankenstein, and then you can take it from there. Okay. Thanks. Let me catch up on the chat. God forbid I read that. Thanks, Dean. That's why. Okay. Yes, sir. Weathered but preserved look was what attracted me. Non-runner. Thanks for the replies. Yeah, man. And it was actually he was a doctor. He was on Watch Crunch. He was sharing that a buddy had given him an SKX. I think it was not the 07 or the 09. It was the 013, the 013, if you will. And it was beat up, not beat up. What am I trying to say? It was aged, right? But after the original person wore it, and we're talking about this watch was probably like 30 years old or something like that. It was old. But the point is that after the original person wore it, it sat in a drawer. And the movement still worked after the fact. So they are out there. You have to scour for it. It's harder now, I would say, than it's probably ever been, because people are now more privy to mechanical watches and having that further in-depth connection to it. I'm seeing, you know, the watch community grow tremendously, especially your guys' knowledge. Like, I come up on here and I talk about independent brands that don't have crazy history, and you guys know all of the names and you guys know them very well. So I can tell that I'm not the only person. And going to the wind-up fair, it was a crazy long line. Next year, I'm even going to record how long the line is. You know, I have a lot of other ideas from when I recorded the 2024 wind-up fair in New York. Next year, I'm going to record it all, man. You guys have to see how crazy it is. It was at the point where we're smack dab in Manhattan. And when I tell you this line wrapped around the building, went all the way down the block, you know how long a Manhattan block is, and kept going. And people in cars were stopping, rolling their window down, saying, what is this line for? We were like, watches. Yeah, it's a thing now. But I'm thinking of building my first watch myself. Nice. But using a Swiss movement like the 7750, but need to put all the parts together versus buying it already built. Yeah, so okay, Oscar, there's several ways that you can go about building your first watch. You can deconstruct and then add in your own spice to it. If you're looking to get separate parts, now the only caveat is you want to use a Swiss movement, and unlike the Japanese movements, as you already know, there's less parts available. So I am personally not up on what is out there that is case design fit to the watches out there for the Swiss movements. I do know that if you have a 3D printer, or if you know somebody has a 3D printer and you take the measurements of the space of the Swiss movement, because usually the Swiss movements are smaller, you can get a 3D rendering, and then you could put it into what is supposed to be for a Seiko build and run it that way. I always offer a deconstruction of a very affordable NH movement, like whether you get it from Tandorio, whether you get it from Pagani. You know, that's how I started. I started just taking apart pieces and swapping them out for very affordable ones. I would say, Oscar, if this is your first time meddling with a watch, even though you want your first one to be Swiss, mess around with an NH movement first. Mess around with an affordable watch. Get yourself a $60 to $100 watch that is just for you to brush up on your skills. Maybe you want to get a kit from, let's say, Namoki Mods or Do It Yourself Watch Club. whatever the case may be, because it is a skill, bro. And I'm not trying to scare you. There's been a lot of people who've built watches themselves that are not even modifiers like that, and they do it successfully. But what I am saying is that a Swiss movement is going to run you about $200 to $300, maybe a little bit more. You don't want to not have the skills of handling a movement and you put your thumb on the balance wheel and you clamp it down and then it's kaput. Why? Because you're going to spend a hell of a lot of money replacing the movement alone. And then there's the hands, and then there's casing it. There's so many things that can go wrong, and whatever could go wrong will go wrong. So I would say mess around with an NH, a very affordable parts. You can even go to AliExpress. Matter of fact, go to AliExpress. That is actually probably the cheapest way. Get yourself NH movements, NH build from AliExpress. This is just your practice dummy, right? It's not like you're trying to build the most extravagant custom watch at that point. It's just for you to get a feel for holding the parts and everything else. And then I got videos if you want to watch them, Oscar. Pretty much all my build videos, what I do is I do a voiceover on them. And as I'm doing the voiceover, I not only explain what I'm doing, I'm also explaining what I did wrong. And if things went wrong, I also shed light and I don't skip over. I said, hey guys, this is what I did at this part. This is what you should have done. And everything else. So it is involved and it is a skill. So do yourself a favor and get yourself something affordable before you start meddling with something expensive. That's what I think. I think a new Postmaster is a better value for money than an old SKX. ProMaster. People are taxing the SKX. It's true, and they don't even hack. Well, okay, so the SKX itself. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. What you can do, though, Thelonious, and I haven't done it myself, but I've seen Loomshot. He took an SKX and he put a hacking movement in it. So I know that it is possible. I haven't brushed up since the first time I saw that video. So what I was offering Thelonious is if he bought an SKX non-runner 007, then he could get a more refined movement with hacking and just swap that movement out to something with more technology on it. But a ProMaster is absolutely a good choice as well, for sure, especially if you want to go with a little bit better of a beat of a movement. I believe the ProMaster, you could probably get a good Miyota in there, maybe like a 9000 series. So that is a good good thing to add. I hear you, Sky. There are growing watch communities in the part of the world. Yes, Indonesia already talked with some secondhand and non-runner sellers there. Oh, okay, perfect, man. Absolutely. And there's a lot to say to that too. Like, if you build more connections with watchmakers, like there's a lot of times that watchmakers throw away movements and stuff like that, right? So you could probably go to a watchmaker, and if he's disposing of a movement, you can ask him for the movement just for you to mess around with that alone. And that's more so if you want to do like a servicing and take it apart and try to put it back together again, and everything else. But if you build relationships with ADs, or not ADs, if you build a relationship with watchmakers, perhaps you can get your hands on or maybe he'll sell you a whole bag of movements for $20, you know? Monk, I just bought a ProMaster Orc edition. Love the watch. Heavy. Yes, sir. That's a nice watch. Got to sign off. Yeah, no problem, Dean. I appreciate you extending the sign off because almost midnight here. No problem, man. Get some shut eye. Thanks for sharing in the convo. Appreciate you tuning in, brother. Yeah, nice. Yeah, you can swap the 4R36 pretty easily. That's what I figured, you know, and I wasn't like being so definite on it because I haven't done it myself, but I've seen it done. And therefore that gives that longevity. And I understand the SKX is a little over, you know, extended, if you will. But, you know, it gave birth to a long line of appreciated watches, it being the Seiko 5 now, and everything else. So it's, and let's be real. When I talk about an SKX build, just so you know, it's more so I'm talking about an NH movement, which is the most common thing utilized when it comes to needing parts for that, when it comes to even getting fancier hands, right? There are watches and builds that I have that I want to get nicer hands for. Realize that when you go from movement to movement, there are less options. Even with the Miyota, in my experience, you can't even go on AliExpress and get a whole list of different hands. There are hands on there, but it's not as plentiful. So I always say for a beater watch in modifying, Go for, and listen, it doesn't have to be an SKX. There are so many watches constructed based off an NH movement, right? So you can go with a tuna, you can go with a an oyster style build, right? Like there's even cases out there that are matching up to the NH movement that are not as mainstream, right? You can go on AliExpress and type in unique NH35 case, and they'll have cases that aren't commonly used. So the whole point is that you give yourself more of a range, you give yourself more options, and if you crack that movement, it's a $30 movement. You may be able to get yourself in the range of $20 to $30 on there. So it's a fantastic way to make a mistake, in my opinion, and everything else. Skylar preaching the Sunday morning God. Horological mode. And if you want to make a build, I say go with the NH35. I say, oh. Yeah, man, preaching, just having fun with you guys, man. I love it. So yeah, guys, I'm going to wrap things up at the hour. We're 40 minutes in, just so you guys know. And I wanted to leave off pretty much talking about just appreciating what we have. Again, we're seeing a lot of the state of the collections towards the end of the year. And I was debating, let me know, guys, if you want to see a state of the collection from me. And what I was thinking about now, I have my 11 rules where you guys saw I showed pretty much what was in my main box. That has already dramatically transitioned. But for the most part, I want to say 70% of those watches are still true to be in the main box. But I showcased a lot of watches, and I didn't do it through a state of a collection. I didn't do it the conventional way. I did it as 11 rules. But let me know if you want to see a state of collection from me from review watches, right? Like separate from what I have in my main box. Now, all of the review watches I keep. I like to enjoy them still. I like to wear them. I like to give them the test of time, and I continue to showcase them as well. So it is in the company's benefit when they do gift me a watch, because I still show it and I still wear them. And it's going to be like that for a very long time, because I really want to, I want to see if they hold up, right? I want to see if everything is to be true. But I have a separate collection from that. It's intertwined. I have like 3 or 4 watch boxes, and they're within that. So I do keep them. So let me know if you want to see a state of collection from the watches that I reviewed, instead of just what's my state of the collection for what's actually, there's a cat over there, what's actually in my collection, if you will. No pun, sky's the limit. Appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. But yeah, man. And that's what led me to come on here and have the second portion of this show be about just appreciating what we have. And I don't mean to get all mushy and all like, you know, kumbaya, but at the same time, man, I am like you guys. I'm just as much as a watch enthusiast as anyone else. And I can definitely relate to having that urge of feeling like you didn't get the watch you wanted. You know, it's Christmas season, you're getting gifts, and it pushes you maybe a little bit more. I'm seeing a lot of people telling me that they have watches on the way. So I know the watch buying has not stopped. It's not come to a halter. If anything, this is the primo time that people are doing purchases. You're getting sales. You're getting your last minute shopping. You're getting the not buyer's remorse, but like the fear of missing out, right? So we can get caught up on that. And I think it's important for us to have our base of where, like, okay, hold on. Let me check what I have. And it happened to me recently. I was talking about this watch and that watch, and I was like, hold on. Let me look at my 50 some odd watches that are in my watch box that I've barely wristed some of them for a couple of weeks now, right? So I was like, man, these state of collections here on the tube can get to you. So, you know, just take some time. Remember what I said in the beginning half of this show, where I said luxury, that state of mind, that state of purchasing, that state of I must have. A lot of us, and I know a lot of us, are really blessed with being able to already have a substantial collection. And remember, there's somebody out there that can't afford a $20 watch. They are breaking even with what they have, and that's the case. So let that be like something that grounds you, if you will, you know? Let me catch up. Chat, make sure you guys are good. And that's pretty much it, guys. If you guys have any other questions, I'm going to pretty much wrap this session up. I appreciate you guys for listening to me rant a second day in a row. I don't want to hold you guys on a Sunday. You guys got better things to do than see my face. So I appreciate you guys for stopping in and spending your most valuable asset, which is time. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Have a blessed rest of your Sunday, guys.